Hi guys, recently I've done a few videos dismissing Flat Earth, which the Flat Earth community have really taken constructively. I think I'm getting through to them. Nearly every flat earther I spoke to believes in a myriad of conspiracies. I don't mean like the classics like vaccinations, 9/11, climate change. I mean stuff that's nuts. If you watch my other video about flat earth beliefs, people believe in centaurs, mermaids. North Korea doesn't exist, despite the fact I've been there. At the Flat Earth Convention in Birmingham, they give out fluoride-free toothpaste because the FE community think the government puts fluoride in toothpaste to make people more subservient. My point is, you can easily dismiss a flat earther by saying, I'm not going to take you seriously, you believe in mermaids, you believe in centaurs. Obviously not every one of them does. So that's not a good argument, because you're putting them all in the same net, even though it only applies to a very, very small amount. With one exception. There's one conspiracy that every flat earther believes: the moon landing. Flat earthers don't believe in space. They believe the moon is in our atmosphere and it's only 32 miles big. However, in 2 years, a flat earther has never been able to explain to me how the moon just floats in the sky. But anyway, so there's many conspiracy theorists in the world that believe the moon landing never happened, but flat earthers believe that it's impossible. These conspiracy theorists believe that visionary director Stanley Kubrick filmed Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong walking on the moon in a studio. What is their evidence? Because in Kubrick's film, The Shining, Danny wears a jumper with the Apollo 11 space rocket on it. Also, when Jack writes "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy" on his typewriter, the word "all" is written as A11. Although this is exactly how the letter L looks like on a standard typewriter, conspiracy theorists believe that the A11 is a reference to the Apollo 11, which supposedly landed on the moon. Let me be clear. Thousands of conspiracy theorists believe the moon landing never happened because of a wafer-thin conspiracy theory revolving around The Shining, which the writer has utterly dismissed, by the way. They believe The Shining is a more credible source for the moon landing than every astronomer, astronaut, and NASA employee. Although that sounds silly, that doesn't actually prove or disprove the moon landing happened. We need to look at the event itself. Conspiracy theorists believe that NASA did this so they could pocket billions of dollars. NASA claimed that it cost $25.4 billion to put a man on the moon. Okay, how much do you think it would cost to fake a moon landing? Way more. If it was completely fake, NASA did still irrefutably hire thousands of physicists, mathematicians, and engineers. They performed countless rocket tests. Fake or not, that still would have cost billions of dollars. If the moon landing was falsified, that means NASA is still paying for it, since they have to bribe workers to stay silent. They would have to monitor any information that could blow the whistle on the whole operation. NASA would have to keep this up forever. During this time, there was at least 400,000 people working for NASA. It's ridiculous that conspiracy theorists believe that NASA performed countless tests and spent billions of dollars on rockets knowing they couldn't go to space. But let's give the conspiracy theorists a benefit of a doubt. Maybe NASA had every intention of going to the moon, but they realized too late they didn't have the technology to achieve it. It's common knowledge nowadays that the technology used to put man on the moon was less advanced than the average iPhone. That's what they were working with. So, to avoid being humiliated after spending a fortune on the project, they paid Stanley Kubrick to shoot a moon scene in a closed set and hope the public would be none the wiser. Which now brings us to the photo and video footage of the moon landing. Many conspiracy theorists have pointed out inconsistencies in the photographs and videos of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walking on the moon. Unsurprisingly, none of these accusers are photographers or filmmakers, since they don't have the slightest understanding of lighting, video, or perspective. Here's a simple argument. Why is there no visible stars in any of the Apollo photos? That's actually a good point, but then you realize to yourself, I'm pretty sure if NASA were going to fake a moon landing that cost billions, they would remember that space has stars. We can't see stars in the photograph because the camera was set to be exposed for broad daylight. This is what the photo would look like if it was set so the stars were visible. A fine photo indeed. And hey, if you don't believe me, confirm that yourself with any photographer. Another photo of the moon landing that conspiracy theorists use to discredit NASA is what's commonly known as the C rock. There's a picture of a rock that seems to have the letter C on it, proving it's a prop. The simple answer? There are photographs of this exact same rock in the exact same position without the C appearing on it. The C is just a hair dropping on the film while the photo is being retouched. Conspiracy theorists obviously dismiss this. Ridiculous. That's such a lame excuse. But here's a very logical argument. Why wouldn't NASA just get an actual rock? There's like 20,000 rocks in my driveway. There's like the most plentiful thing in the world. You're telling me NASA couldn't find a rock? I mean, there's tons of examples, but many of these inconsistencies have straightforward explanations. For example, why does the American flag stay up even though there's very little gravity on the moon? Simple, the flag was designed to extend outward. Why would you bring a US flag to the moon if it wasn't devised to billow out? There is thousands of arguments like this, and the sad thing is, if you're a conspiracy theorist, there's a 99% chance that 1,000 arguments is just not going to change your mind. I could talk for hours and hours and you go, yeah, no, you're wrong, it's still fake. So the question is this: is there a case closed argument? Is there an argument that a conspiracy theorist just can't get around? Yes, there is. There's one thing no conspiracy theorist can argue with. If you ever talk to someone who denies the moon landing happened, ask them one simple question. Have you actually watched the video footage of the moon landing from start to finish? I guarantee 99.999% of people will say no. In fact, many people did watch it when it first happened, but very few people watch it in its entirety because it was actually really boring. How long do you think that video is? 10 minutes? 20 minutes? Half an hour? No, it's 143 minutes. People were watching this for nearly 2.5 hours. It's ridiculous for you to believe the moon landing didn't happen when you didn't even watch the full footage. Although that sounds like a good point, again, that still doesn't prove the moon landing did or didn't happen. So what's the case closed argument? Here it is. Conspiracy theorists say the astronauts look like they are weightless because the camera was slowed down, which gave them the illusion that they were floating. That is the most compelling evidence to prove the moon landing did happen. The 143 minutes of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walking on the moon was shown in its entirety when they landed on July 21st, 1969. At the time, the Ampex disc recorder was used for slow motion shots. This camera records footage at 1/3 the speed to highlight movement, especially during sports games. The footage on the moon was shot at 11 frames per second. If the footage would slow down, this means we're watching it at 33 frames per second to see the astronauts move normally, like this. So, if the footage is 143 minutes and this was slowed down, that means it was originally 48 minutes long. However, this theory completely falls apart since the Ampex disc recorder could only hold 30 seconds of material at the time of the Apollo 11 mission. Because of this, this footage was almost 100 times too long to be filmed on that type of recorder. The later moon landings were recorded with NTSC video cameras, which shot at 30 frames per second. Since it was filming at triple the frame rate, it would have been 3 times harder to fake. I have heard this argument used, and it has actually convinced moon deniers that they are wrong. They admit it. They realize that it must have happened. There's just no way they can get around this argument, which is good because a belief in a conspiracy creates a domino effect. If you are convinced about one conspiracy being true, you are susceptible to believe others. But this works both ways. A person may lose a belief in a conspiracy by being convinced that another conspiracy isn't true. Case in point, the flat earth community cannot explain how Apollo recorded the moon landing without using an Ampex disc recorder. This means the moon landing did happen, which means that space is real, which means that the earth is round. If a conspiracy theorist is convinced that one of their beliefs is false, it is likely that they will doubt the rest. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Please let me know if there's any other aspects of flat earth you want me to look at, and I'll upload a video as soon as possible. To learn more facts, check out my books. They're available on Amazon on paperback and Kindle. Thanks for watching. See you again.